So I wanted to show you a few little vids that I saw on Twitter just recently of the Portland protests and also one in Houston. And it's interesting the comparison between what's going on there and in this particular vid I'm going to show you, where a protester gets shot in the head with what appears to be a rubber bullet. And you know that rubber bullets can be lethal. There's a lot of blood. I may not actually show you the latter video where the person is on the ground and they appear to be still conscious, but there's profuse bleeding. It reminds me of what happens to Palestinians if you've ever watched some of the videos from the Great March of Return. And of course the Israeli occupation army, they use real bullets, real live bullets. They don't use rubber bullets, and they just shoot protesters that are non-violently protesting. They shoot medics and paraplegics and children, and they're quite proud of that too. It's not an accident when they shoot a child and kill them. And when I saw this video of this protester, he was holding up a boombox over his head, and then somebody shot him in the head. It immediately made me think of what happens at the Great March of Return. This sort of really gives us a bit of an insight into Donald Trump thinking that the way to get some sort of support from his base is to vilify the left. He's conflating actually the pretend left, the liberal left, the Democratic Party left. He's conflating that with actual leftist protesters who are not only against what's happening to black people in the United States, but also other issues. I mean, it's a much broader thing than what the catalyst was with George Floyd murder by the police. As you probably guessed, the polls are reflecting that Donald Trump is probably not going to win. He may well win because of lots of different reasons, including electoral fraud, which seems to happen every federal election and also state elections, and by both parties. They engage in voter suppression and all kinds of things. But just say there is no electoral fraud and all the voter suppression and all of that, and mail ballots being stolen, then, and he does lose, I think he's building up to a situation where he's using federal agents to just act in a kind of a brown shirts way, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen if he loses. It's a difficult one, really, and I think it is a sort of a call to the right-wing base that he's trying to show them that he's really, really tough on the left, and trying to increase that idea of a sort of a civil war against the left and the right. And that's what that's all he's got, really. He's failed terribly with dealing with the pandemic, and he's failed his own base because he hasn't given them any real financial support. He's given his corporate buddies plenty of financial support, but all he's got now is kind of desperately trying to find sort of issues that he thinks is going to claw back that support that he had when first elected. But it's looking very grim for him, and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to pan out if he loses the election. Of course, Joe Biden is no alternative. He's hopeless. He's in cognitive decline, and it indicates that the Democratic Party don't really care if they win or they don't win, really. If they did care, they would have put forward Bernie Sanders, and there was a lot wanting with Bernie Sanders, but he had some democratic socialist policies that were intended to help the public. They don't really care, I think, one way or another if they don't win. So if Donald Trump loses, it's going to be a bit of if he wins, it's going to be very ugly, because he's going to increase that neo-fascist behavior via federal agents just taking people off the streets as they have been doing, and sending them into other cities that don't want them. It's completely against the First Amendment, what he's doing. And he's just ignoring the wants of the mayors of those cities. I think he's just going ahead and he's going to put them in Chicago and other major cities, these federal agents, and they're just going to snatch people off the streets just like Pinochet did. They may not end up dead, but this is completely just appalling. And this is just neo-fascism right in full view of everybody. And on to the people who manufacture consent for war, which is the mainstream corporate-owned media. CNN is covering these protests in a sort of a way where If protesters do something that's a bit violent, or they break property or something, it's a very active voice, and when the police do something, it's a very passive voice. So you can tell what the side that the mainstream media is on. They're certainly not really on the side of the protesters. But of course, anything that is anti-Donald Trump, they're on side with. If it helps vilify Donald Trump, that's sort of all they're good for. Is, you know, the Clinton News Network is good for that. But basically, that's all they're good for, is vilifying Trump. They don't really critique anything real, like the wars or anything like that. It's all about hating Trump. It's just so sort of juvenile and, you know, non-journalism basically. But anyway, I'm going to show you these videos, and just think about, if you recall what happened at the Great March of Return and what continues to happen against Palestinians in the apartheid state of Israel. Just imagine if that was live ammunition, because that's what they do to Palestinians at the Great March of Return, just killing non-violent protesters who are waving their arms or waving a Palestinian flag or sitting in a wheelchair. So, you know, really in many ways what you could say about this is that because the U.S. Police are trained in Israel, that's where they learnt the knee on the neck, which is something that the Palestinians have to experience by the IDF. Many countries are victims of U.S. imperialism, and now what has been happening in the world via U.S. imperialism is coming home to roost, so to speak. And this is sort of the kind of tactics that the IDF use in apartheid Israel towards the Palestinians are now starting to come home to U.S. citizens, no matter what color they are. And there'll probably be more of that, sadly. There'll be more snatchings off the street, and maybe they'll start really using live ammunition on protesters, which I think may have even already happened, I'm not sure. But I haven't been following it too closely. I've been a bit busy. And the last thing I wanted to say, just off the topic of this, before I show those videos, is, and I'll give you a warning about the one with all the blood. I may not show that because YouTube might have a problem with it and may sort of suppress my video, so I may not show that. But the last thing I wanted to say was, every so often, maybe once a week, I might do a live stream of a game, Morrowind or some other game that I'm playing, just for a couple of reasons, just for the relaxing factor of it, and just to hang out with people if they want to join the chat. And I'll give you a heads up when I'm going to do that. I'll schedule it so that people can join in and just, you know, get to know one another a little bit, and just hang out. Also, the other reason is because sometimes live streaming of games can boost the channel's appearance in other people's feeds, and that's something I'd like to do, so I thought I might use that aspect. I know that there are different people who use gaming and political commentary in the same video, and I may do that in the future too, depending on, I'll have to think about that. So, but for the next little while anyway, for the next maybe once a week, maybe even twice a week, I'm not sure, I'll do that. I'll do some live streaming. I'm a hopeless gamer, as you will see fairly quickly, or you'll see with the recent game that I did, was a couple of hours, and some folks joined in and we had some back and forths. But it's kind of fun, and it's kind of fun to do, and it's really nice to be able to hang out with people in a live setting. So I'll let you know, I'll schedule something and you'll see if you want to join in and say hi, that'd be great. That's all I wanted to say, so thanks so much for watching. My name's Trish Roberts, you're watching Fancy Signals from Viga. Till next time, bye for now.